Hello and welcome to your daily dose of Satoshi's news. Today's date is Saturday, the 8th of November 2025, the year BSV comes alive. Branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai or your post plot and chain. Right, let's see what we got today. Just going to go over some posts on my feed as usual. There's an article here from Cointelegraph saying crypto needs to rethink incentive structures before mainstream arrives. Well, if it doesn't, mainstream ain't never going to arrive, but that's the whole point. That's why it's a shitcoin market. And then we'll have a look at the figures because they're looking juicy. We'll discuss Tufty the Cat's response to the 100x increase in fees. Again, they're clearly shitting themselves. And the only comeback he's got is, the obvious conclusion is that it's completely centralized. So, hey, mate, you got any more than that? Don't think so. They are shitting it, as they rightly should be. We'll just carry on and have a look. Some great action going on at the moment. And then we'll finish with some 365 days of Bitcoin history. Right, let's get into it.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the Teranode, you'll surely see.
Alrighty, here we go. So my feed where I collect the most interesting news of the day. Crypto Crate said here, that Teranode email from November 15th isn't a fee update. It's them standardizing the infrastructure right before they expect a tidal wave of volume. The window from November 16th to November 16th to the 25th is the kill box. You have Mars in Leo, the arrogant king on this throne, thinking he's untouchable, walking right into a planned ambush. A sudden tech stock from Uranus to cripple the network, and a ruthless power play from Pluto to expose the fatal flaw. It's the perfect storm, a simultaneous financial execution and a technical checkmate. The rest of the month is just the aftermath, watching the dippers get liquidated as they realize the fundamental tech is broken beyond repair. That's a deep dive there from Crypto Crates. We shall have to see. Now we've got it on record. We'll have to see what happens. Great post here from CSW here. Let's have a look at this one. He said, my goal has always been brutally simple, to build a system that's capable of 1 billion transactions per second. At today's computational level and engineering to grow along the natural curve of Moore's law, doubling every 18 months until even the concept of limitation becomes archaic. That's not ambition, that's inevitability. Correctly understood, Bitcoin was never meant to crawl. It was designed to ascend, to expand, until it could sustain the full commercial breadth of humanity. Every contract, every payment, every data exchange, all verifiable, immutable, and instantaneous. Those who think such scale impossible are the same breed who once said computers would never fit on desks, or that the internet would never carry video. Their failure of imagination is not my concern. The laws of physics and computation are not their toys. They bend to engineering, to precision, to persistence. That's what I'm building, a system that doesn't shatter under success, but strengthens with it. I'll retire when it's done, not when it's fashionable, not when it's profitable, but when it's complete, when the network hums with quiet, unstoppable efficiency of a machine that no longer needs its maker. Until then, I work. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. What a great post there from CSW. Love hearing stuff like that, and you've got to read between the lines to know what it really means. And he means business. Seriously, means business. Nick Simon said here, the future of all financial transactions, BSV Teranode, only BSV is Bitcoin. He knows, and that was in response to Future Wired saying, BSV Teranode just flipped the script on what's possible in blockchain. Massive scale, real utility, and performance you can actually see. The era of limitless blockchain has officially begun. Beautiful, beautiful. And before we have a look at that post from Ivor Cummings, there was another post here from CSW I just want to read out. He said here, 1 billion transactions a second, scaling beyond 10 and beyond that again. Everything goes on chain. Every document, every receipt, every identity, every contract, all hashed, indexed, immutable. Privacy stops being about hiding. It becomes about irrelevance, a needle lost in a universe of data. The magnitude itself protects you. And when that happens, nobody needs intermediaries. No Lightning, no second layers, no banks, no Square, no MasterCard, no MicroStrategy, no treasury. Every person holds their own money, directly, securely, permanently. That's the point. The design was always peer-to-peer. A system where you don't trust, you verify, where value moves without permission and ownership is absolute. That's the future I built for. Brilliant. Brilliant. That is the future he built for. Loving that, right? Let's just have a listen to this. This was fascinating. Ivor Cummings posted here, he said, after destroying the third world, the globalist bankers have turned on us. At some point, there were no lands left to conquer. So how do you extract wealth from the middle class? You do it through iatrogenic injury. I mean, this is just fascinating, but also devastating at the same time. But you know he's true when he says it. So just have a listen to this. This is 4 minutes. Well worth it.
The biological colonialism argument that Jeffrey alluded to goes something like this. So for the last 500 years, if you were a nation that wanted to get rich, the way you did it was you built a bunch of ships, you loaded them full of soldiers and guns and horses, and you sailed from Europe to the New World, and you took their stuff. You took their gold, you enslaved their people, you forced people to work in the gold mines and that sort of thing. That's how Europe got rich, that's how the UK got rich. And so that's the historical pattern for 500 years. 500 years of colonialism. And then later there was neo-colonialism with unfair trade deals that kept enriching Europe and the United States. And then more recently, with the backing of the U.S. military, we can get third world nations to produce stuff for us for low cost that make us feel rich. So historically, for 500 years, that's been the pattern. Here's the problem. At some point, there were no new lands left to conquer. And so what the ruling class decided was that where the money is, the peasants to be exploited were the middle class in the United States and throughout the developed world. And how do you extract wealth from the middle class? You do it through iatrogenic injury. So if you can get the entire population to inject their kids 72 times during childhood, and then get all the rest of the population and the kids to take COVID shots, and you can injure them, you can enslave them for life to chronic illness. So in my research, I show that lifetime care costs for autism are in the range of $5 million to $7 million per kid. That's a lot of money, and it goes somewhere. And it goes to the pharmaceutical industry, the hospital industrial complex, and the ruling class. And so with COVID shots, what we have is, so picture a middle-aged woman in Orange County, California, who gets a COVID shot. And then she gets myocarditis. So now she has to do regular appointments with a cardiologist. She's in and out of the hospital. And she's sick all the time. So over the course of the next 5 to 10 years of her life, her healthcare costs are going to be in the range of about $2 million. And that all goes to pharma, doctors, and the pharmaceutical industrial complex. If that same woman was enslaved in a gold mine in South America, you could only get about $20,000 worth of labor out of her. The most, if you worked her to the bone. And then she would, eventually perish. The old model of colonialism, right? But In 5 to 10 years in the US, you can squeeze $2 million out of this one person through iatrogenic injury, through a COVID shot that causes myocarditis, that sends her in and out of the hospital for 10 years of treatment. And so the insurance company pays, the government pays, she mortgages her house, her family pays, it extracts all wealth out of her and her family, and then after 10 years, the pharmaceutical industry allows her to perish. So the crisis that we're in right now and why we're all just traumatized all the time is that Western allopathic medicine has become a machine to extract wealth out of the middle class, working class, and lower classes in the United States, to enrich the pharmaceutical industry and the ruling class through iatrogenic injury. That's the crisis that we're in right now, and it was already happening with autism and other chronic illnesses in children before, and then it just blossomed in size during the COVID epidemic and the response and the junk science COVID shots.
Wow. Absolutely epic post there from Ivor Cummings. That was just insane, but
the biological colonialism
got it absolutely nailed it there. Absolutely nailed it. So you can see how they're extracting wealth. And again, this is why the world needs Bitcoin. It's exactly why the world needs Bitcoin, because the whole world is owned and controlled by the banking cartel who can make systems like the one he's just described. Absolutely outrageous. So anyway, there we go. We'll just see if YouTube allows that. So let's move on to this article here from Cointelegraph saying crypto needs to rethink incentive structures before the mainstream arrives. Yeah, well, what incentive structures are those? Because we know the deep state have turned the whole thing into a shitcoin market. So they said tokenomics favor speed over conviction, using genuine supporters as exit liquidity. Crypto's mainstream future requires replacing extraction with participation incentives. Participation? You mean utility? Is that what you mean? That's what it sounds like to me. Every token launch is a story about belief. Crypto narratives often romanticize early buyers as visionaries who saw potential when others didn't. The reality is far less noble. The bonding curve, currently the dominant mechanism for price discovery in crypto, sets the stage. Price increases with each purchase. Well, Tether pumps the price actually, rewarding those who arrive early with the best entry points. On the surface, this seems fair. Early buyers, however, are not early believers. Speed of purchase reveals nothing about conviction or commitment to the project. What the bonding curve rewards is speed. And in crypto, speed is determined by access to tools and insider knowledge. There we go, insider knowledge. You've got to know when Tether's going to pump it. The loudest advocates for getting in early are often the first to exit, using the actual believers who arrive moments later as a means of exit liquidity. The broken dynamics of bonding curves. The bonding curve has become a standard for most launch platforms. Its purpose is to attract liquidity to reward early buyers. The structure is extractive yet straightforward. Prices increase with each purchase, creating a ladder where the position determines profit potential. True believers, the users who genuinely care about a project's mission, creators who want to support innovation, and fans who see long-term value, typically arrive just moments later. By then, the snipers who got in the moment the contract goes live are ready to exit, dumping their positions onto the very people who more likely hold a part and participate authentically. Not really, because none of the coins do anything. The bonding curve doesn't only enable this, it effectively programs it into the incentive structure. Participants buy to dump because it's the game of chicken when everyone understands the rules. Get in early, find the greater fool, and get out before the music stops. Again, as we've been saying, musical chairs. The platforms have little incentive to change the dynamic as long as there's a flow of new participants willing to test their luck. Activity and, most importantly, fees are being generated, and so it doesn't matter how many get burnt. But over time, the pool of willing participants shrinks as more people learn the hard way that they're playing a rigged game. What looks sustainable in a bull market falls apart when inflows slow. This matters as crypto goes mainstream. The current paradigm may be tolerable and even attractive to insiders and crypto natives, finding the right Telegram group and obtaining the alpha for specific subset of participants in the game. The group is a fraction of crypto's potential user base. As the industry moves towards the mainstream, the tolerance of extraction will dwindle. Mainstream users won't forgive rug pulls and confusion mechanics. If crypto wants to shed its reputation as a casino and establish itself as a legitimate financial infrastructure, the industry must internalize a fundamental truth. Extraction is not a form of growth. Treating newcomers as markets destroy trust. And without trust, there's no sustainable adoption. Models that reward genuine participation rather than greed aren't just ethically preferable, they're necessary for the industry to mature. It's never going to mature. It's a complete load of shit. Fair alternatives that reward conviction. There are launch mechanisms that better align incentives between projects and their communities. Pre-sales with flat pricing represent on one approach. Everyone pays the same price regardless of their position, whether they bought in first or 40 first. The incentive to snipe and dump diminishes significantly. In bonding curves launches, having the token contract address minutes before the public can access it can translate into enormous profits. Sniping tools have created an environment where even being first to launch a page means nothing against someone who's first on chain. A fair launch mechanism levels the playing field, especially when combined with identity verification. Vesting is another tested solution. Tokens are locked for a significant period of time. This approach is universally applied in traditional markets, among others transparency, advance notice and restrictions that allow the market price to allow the market to price in liquidity events in advance. Trading fees could replace team token allocations entirely. The logic is that the team should develop continuous value to holders and earn their compensation through sustainable revenue rather than token dumps. After all, if a team sells its allocation, confidence typically collapses. All these alternative rewards belief rather than speed. Belief, you mean speculation rather than speed. It's just a speculative article, isn't it? Outgrowing the pump and dump, the bonding curve dominates because it works, not for the projects or communities, but for platforms and snipers. The problem isn't any single platform design choices, though it's a culture that has normalized short-termism and zero-sum thinking. When industry leaders publicly celebrate sniper gains and treat retail participants as exit liquidity, it sets a precedent. People internalize it and start assuming that exploitation is simply how the game is played. For crypto to achieve its potential, the industry must outgrow this culture. The Wild West aesthetic serves a purpose in crypto early days, but it's become a liability when pursuing legitimacy and scale. There is no legitimacy in scale, because the only legitimate digital commodity is Bitcoin. Literally everything else is a shitcoin, and I mean everything. That's because it's a shitcoin. People know it's a shitcoin. They know they're talking shit. They're full of shit, and all they're doing is dollar worshipping. It's the greater fool. Because genuine Bitcoin is as in BSV, is the only one that has any true common value, because it's a commodity. That's why all these other shitcoins are securities, and that's why they're called shitcoins. Fairness is the only sustainable mechanic. As the industry scales into mainstream, fairness becomes a requirement rather than an optional feature. Well, again, a fairness, that has to be a commodity. Fairness is what's common. That's it. But they're not going to tell you that. Trust, once destroyed, is nearly impossible to rebuild, and the mainstream users have no shortage of alternative places to put their attention and capital. The future of crypto isn't about perfecting extraction. It's about achieving alignment between all participants, as in like common. Yeah, achieving alignments between all participants. Well, it has to be common then. Builders, investors, traders, and users. Genuine belief, sustainable contribution, and long-term participation will outlast extraction. And again, that can only happen if the network is common. That's it. It has to be a commodity, so you can use it for all of your digital requirements. Again, I think that's just an article wrapped in fluff, to be honest. Anyway, let's have a look at the figures then. So we've got Gradecoin, $101,000, B crash under 500, Fisher Price cash, who cares? Bitcoin at $24. $24. Hash rate 0.02, network nodes 0.00, allegedly. Transactions all just dipped at 48.19, but block size, though, 87.1. And talking about transactions there, I just want to bring your attention to this tweet here. So I said the obvious conclusion from this troll is that he's an absolute goon and doesn't understand Bitcoin. And that was in response to Tufty the Cat saying, if mining on BSV was really decentralized, it would not be possible for one entity to raise transaction fees by 100x and get away with it. If any miner on Bitcoin did this, they would get no transactions. The obvious conclusion from this is that BSV is completely centralized. Yeah, all right, mate, whatever. Literally, just because they've come to consensus on network fees, this is good for the network because miners chase profit. And literally, the only shit they can come out with is, oh, it's centralized. Oh, it's centralized. Yeah? Well, how about breaking the chain of signatures on BTC? That's turned it from a commodity into a security. And it's completely centrally controlled by Blockstream, who are the deep state technical team. And again, this goon is part of it. But that's all they can cry. Oh, it's centralized, it's centralized. They have no idea about economic commodity and how to commoditize a network. Just because they've come to consensus about 100x fees, but they're saying, oh, 100x fees, but that's because they're going up from 1 sat per kilobyte. 1 sat. 1 sat. You know, 1 of 100 million bits. That's it. And now we're just going to 100th of 100 million bits. It's literally absolutely nothing. But this lot are crying about it because they know the effect it's going to have. Miners chase profit. That is it. Oof. Get your popcorn ready, folks. Yeah. So nothing to write home about here in these blocks. Oh, we've got 292. That's all right. 74, 39, 83, 120. But it looks like transactions just gone down recently. It's 39,000 times cheaper to transact on Bitcoin than Gradecoin. So again, it's probably just going to be 3,900 times cheaper. But you're still talking micropayments. But literally, 100x the miner's profit. That is huge. So what's been going on over these last few years is that, as I said, the profitability is being carefully managed. And now the profitability, look at this. So it's currently only 1.6% more profitable to mine on Gradecoin over Bitcoin. And yet on Bitcoin, they're only charging 1 sat per kilobyte of data. And the profitability is literally level. So now you're looking at profitability 100x magnitude. This is going to be absolutely epic. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. Especially as Tufty the Cat's getting his knickers in a twist about it. That's going to be hilarious. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? What, they think they can pump the price of a Gradecoin up to like $200,000? Still not going to make a difference. The block halving ends at 0. Literally. And that's what miners use to sustain themselves. Satoshi Nakamoto knows this. Maybe that's why he's played this game. Absolute, literally, the ace up his sleeve. Brilliant. So Gradecoin hash rate looks like other miners, 6% on there. B crash, other miners, 11%. Fisher Price cash, not bothered. And CoinDance never reporting the figures for Bitcoin there. 24-hour transactions, 414,452. Let's have a look at the mining. So it looks like what's on chain isn't supporting Maxthon browser anymore, which is why I can't see it. I have to look at the mining on Google Chrome. But mining Dutch 29.85, taking the lead from out of nowhere. Tal 20.9, Q 15.67, QD Link 14.1, SA 100 12.69. All right. So let's have a look at the transaction volume here. Yep, that's correct. Still in front of Gradecoin though. Third place, just dropping below XRP, but we proved yesterday we can absolutely romp past them. Absolutely romp past them. We got to like 1.2 million transactions and literally still ranked like, you know, in the late 80s or early 90s in terms of coin market cap. Absolutely insane. Let's have a look at the price action here. Bitcoin versus Gradecoin. Let's say somebody put a massive buy order in there. And they still gaining up against Gradecoin. There was another buy order, it looks like. Absolutely fantastic. Just cross-reference that with Orange Gateway. Look at that. There was a massive buy order. It came down again. There was another massive buy order. And it's just come down. Obviously, traders are cashing out. But the price still trending up. That is looking extremely strong. Extremely strong. Like, whoa. Bitcoin versus the big dog. Yeah, look at that. Winning against Gradecoin. We will take that any day of the week. Brilliant. Overall market cap $3.3 trillion. Gradecoin 102. Trade volume just 2.4%, representing about $50 billion. Oh, look at that price going down over 24 hours. Oof. Market's not going to be happy with that. And all these shitcoiners with shit for brains just have no idea what's going on. All right, just keep an eye on the graphs on the right-hand side as we're scrolling down. Look, you'll see how sort of they all follow a similar pattern. But what we're looking for is Bitcoin. Where's Bitcoin going to be now? Is it in the 80s? 87. There we go. $24.20. 2.4% 24-hour trade volume. Just 14 million 24-hour trade volume. So $7 million will enable you to purchase all the cells. $7 million, and nobody's selling anything anymore. Amazing. So the price has trended down a little bit, but going up there. So that shows you it bucking the trend against Gradecoin. Loving that. Right, some 365 days of Bitcoin history. On the 8th of November 2021, on this day, BTC hit a record all-time high at 67,000 USD. But again, I mean, that was back in 2021. People were just like, whoa, you know, $60,000, and yet here we are, 100,000. Jeepers. 8th of November 2021, the highest price of Bitcoin ever reached. Or back then it was. Bitcoin all-time high today, 67,567. And the 8th of November 2022, FTX collapsed, triggering the biggest one-day wealth collapse on record. And that was an article here from Business Insider. Look at that. Crypto tycoon Sam Bankman-Fried lost 94% of his fortune overnight, marking the biggest one-day wealth collapse among billionaires on record. Oof. So he was a billionaire on paper, but only through his own FTX token. But I mean, still, fascinating stories. My. Right, there we go. That's a 28-minute show. We'll leave you there. Hope you enjoyed it. And as ever, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
The king still has one more move.